Comrades, family and friends of the late Joe Modise gathered at the Nelson Mandela Foundation, the Center of Memory in Johannesburg, this week for the launch of Comrade and Commander, The Life and Times of Joe Modise. The book is co-edited by former Minister Ronnie Karils and as well as Fidelis Hove. I was there and had the honor and privilege of putting together this story. Told through the memory of those who knew him. This unique biography tells the story of Joe Modise, the longest-serving commander of the ANC's military wing, Umkhonto weSizwe, and the first Minister of Defense post-apartheid. This book isn't just a celebration of the life of Joe Modise, it also constitutes the history of the Umkhonto weSizwe military, leading up to the formation of the new South African National Defense Force. Told through 50 different voices, we get to know the story of Joe Modise, Joe as a comrade and commander, as a friend, as well as a husband and a father.
My dad was a great dad in the sense that he was a very loving father, which I think is maybe in some ways counterintuitive to what people would assume a soldier of a father would be like. He was very loving, very patient, very kind. But the one thing that my parents, I think, were really great about is they, from a very early age, instilled in us a sense of knowing your own mind, which I thought was very important. And they always taught us to question things.
Mavuso Msimang served in his high command when Joe Modise was the commander-in-chief of Umkhonto weSizwe.
He was fully in control of a group of people who had fairly good education, but you never missed who was in charge. We were preparing to go into Zimbabwe. You may have heard of the Wankie campaign, and Joe really would be out there in the front lines. He was responsible for the negotiations that allowed us to work in combination with the people of Zimbabwe, with ZIPRA. And so when in August 1967, people crossed on their way to South Africa and ended up fighting in Zimbabwe, he was on the riverbanks.
Former President Thabo Mbeki had this to say about the book Comrade and Commander and how Modise would have fit into the current political landscape.
I think it's very, very important that the book has been published and also deal with all of these strange stories that were told about him, which were not true. So here we have somebody, at last we can say, this is the real Joe Modise, so don't listen to anybody else. I was very, very central, as I say, to the leadership of our struggle, since from even before MK was formed. So that I think that's the very first thing. I think it's also very important to tell that story now, in particular because you see the way the political situation has evolved in the country. It actually demands that it would have been very, very good if we had people like Joe Modise still with us today in this situation. Because we could then depend on that kind of experience and maturity and steady hand in terms of saying, how do we respond to this very changed situation? I think it would have played a very, very important role in terms of leading us because of his experience and the manner in which he worked. I worked very closely with him for some time. So I'm saying he was just not just a military leader, but a political leader of this country and of our movement. He would have been a very important asset in terms of saying, what do we do now?
Despite being a long-serving commander of the Umkhonto weSizwe and a leading figure in the ANC for decades, Joe Modise's biography remained largely unknown until now. This important book sheds new light on Modise's life from his childhood to his pivotal role in the development of Umkhonto weSizwe, as well as the negotiation process and the first democratic government. From me, Masechaba Khumalo, we're broadcasting from the Nelson Mandela Foundation at the launch of Comrade and Commander for Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405.